Side and one straight ahead of me, which is awesome news. So we'll go and sit with the one on the right while the other guys watch the one on the left. They look as though they're very tired cats. They obviously were up to lots of different things last night, and we heard the roaring this morning. VM heard the roaring this morning, and so maybe they've all roared themselves out and are a little bit on the tired side. But I don't know who we've got just yet. I'll let you know shortly. It looks like Nena on my right-hand side. On the left, I'm not 100% sure, but at least we've got one Birmingham that is fairly out there. And actually, this is Tinyo that I've got on my right-hand side. So here's Tinyo, and on the left-hand side, I'm not quite sure just yet. But these guys, as far as I know, have been all over the place recently. We've had a situation where these males have been down on Mala Mala, particularly Tinyo. I know I saw a video of Tinyo chasing another male and then fighting with one of his coalition members, and so he's been busy down in the south and has been causing a bit of chaos, and maybe that's why he's a little bit on the sort of tired side of life. But really good to see the Birminghams kind of back in this area. They look like they're very tired, but what I'm hoping is, because we're sitting here and there's sun that's rising and there's not that many clouds, I'm hoping that the sun is going to break through these clouds, get onto these lines that'll make them wake up a little bit and then start to move around. Now, I believe a lot of you are very excited that we've managed to find some of the Birminghams. Well, I'm very excited too, and I suppose we didn't really find anything. We just listened to the radio, and I suppose VM's kind of hearing of the call got us coming this way, but it was at least the other guys that found them. But still very cool to see, and you can see it's definitely Tinyo. His lip kind of sits up slightly on that left side. It almost curls in towards his teeth, and you can see his bottom canine when he's sleeping like that. You also can see that he's in a little bit of a dream, so his bottom lip is twitching. He's got really quite a nice dark mane as well around his chest. Tinyo seems to have the darkest kind of patch on that chest area, and so a little easier to identify him from that. Becca, you're asking how many lions there are in the resident pride. Well, the coalition that we see, so the Birmingham males, there's 4 of them, and then in the Nkahuma pride, which is the pride that we see the most, there is 5 adult females, 6 sub-adults, and then 2 new cubs. The 3rd cub, I believe, is no longer there, so it's only 2 brand new little cubs. And so when the pride is all together, we have a situation where there is let me just double check this, but my maths is correct, but it should be that there are 17 lions in total in that pride. The other pride that we see sometimes, it's not always that we see them, but sometimes, is the Styx pride, and that's 3 adult females, and they have 2 older cubs, then they have 4 medium cubs and 4 little cubs at the moment. So those are the 2 prides that we see here on Djuma at some stages, but the Birmingham males then service both of those prides as well as another pride. The Birmingham males also will go up into Torchwood as well. But I wonder why these boys are so tired, given that it's not exactly very, very hot. I would have thought that we might have seen them still at least have their heads up. I didn't think they'd be this sleepy so early in the morning. We've only just got started and they're already very tired. And it's not like they have full bellies either. They look as though they could do with a meal. Tinyo, are you going to wake up for us? I think the flies are irritating him. You can see he was pouring at his face, and maybe he's got 1 or 2 little cuts or scrapes from when he and one of the other males were fighting the other day, and the flies might just be irritating him. Now that the sun's up, you'll find that the flies will be out and about, and unfortunately that's going to mean he's going to be a little on the uncomfortable side. Now, I think it was the name, I'm not 100% sure, but you're asking if Tinyo still carries mange. Now, if you look on his tummy there, you'll see that he's got quite a dark gup. There we go. Sorry about that, gup. But you can see there on the tummy, there's still this kind of black scarring. And so that's from mange. You can actually see a little bit of the scabbing sort of towards the armpits. So he does have a little bit still. It's not much, but he does have a little bit. And it is healing, and he's finding that the hair is starting to grow back a little bit. But it's still present there. So I'm sure once we've had another summer, hopefully that will wash him clean, and that will be the end of it. And we won't see any more sort of issues with mange on Tinyo himself. He's had a tough time of it. He was the one that was really badly affected by it right in the beginning. But that is one tired cat. I don't know if they're going to move anywhere at the moment. Like I say, what we need is the sun to come out. If the sun comes out, then we'll find a situation where these males might get up and start moving and kind of try and seek shelter. But for now, I think we're going to see them just very sleepy. Linda, lion prides will try and, I suppose, avoid each other if they are on the fringes of their territory. If they're in a situation where they are right on, sort of in the heart of their territory, and there's another pride that comes in, then no, they're going to be very confrontational. They're going to go and they're going to try and chase those lions away. If it's on a fringe or an area where they're kind of pushing into a new place, you might find they'll hear lions roaring and avoid them. Also, when it comes to coalitions, a lot of the time you'll find coalitions will push and try and expand their boundaries, much like the Birminghams are doing now. They're going south into Manamara, into Londolozi, a little bit into Ottawa, and so they're starting to kind of push and radiate outwards. And every time they hear, let's say, the Majingalans calling, often you'll find that if they're not all together, they might turn and come backwards and just try and avoid that confrontation until such time as they feel that they have the numerical advantage, or they have some sort of advantage over the individuals that they hear calling. So they do try and avoid each other, and that's why they roar and scent mark and all of these other things, is to try and avoid having to actually clash and fight, because a fight with male lions could ultimately lead to the death. In terms of prides, yes, prides will chase other prides out if they feel like it's in their territory, but if they're on the fringes and they hear another pride calling, you might find that they'll just retreat back and come back into where they know that they're safe. So it's a bit of both. I mean, at the end of the day, they do try and avoid some, but sometimes they'll also be confrontational if they need to be. Now, I think what I'm going to do is probably try and go and reposition at the other male and just go and see what we've got on that side, or who we've got, should I say. But while I do that, let's go back to Taylor McCurdy. Now, I have to apologize because I called Taylor Brent just now, and I also hope that Taylor's feeling much better. I know she's been under the weather the last few days, so hopefully, T-Bomb, you're feeling better. But let's go across to her and see what she's been up to. Is Mfumo. So Mfumo is having a really very, very, very sleepy nap this morning. It seems as though both of these individuals, both Tinyo and Mfumo, are in a situation where they are completely fast asleep. They're not even moving. We had a whole herd of impala that walked right past Tinyo, maybe even not even 15 meters from him, and he didn't even wake up. He didn't even look at them for once. And so I don't think our boys are going to be too active today. I think they are really down and out. But what I'm hoping is there's a third Birmingham walking around on Cheetah Plains, and apparently he's walking quite fast, and what I'm hoping is that he might make some sort of a noise that could potentially get these guys to wake up a little bit. Also, being at Chitwa Open, there's a lot of animals that come through here, so there's a lot of waterbuck and impalas and kudu and various other things that come to drink. So even though it looks fairly sedate and stationary at the moment, it's not a bad idea just to sit and wait for a while before we kind of move on and just see what happens. You never know, maybe these two boys do start to wake up. But you can see Mfumo is looking absolutely wonderful. He's looking better than what Tinyo is, I must be honest. And VM was saying that he seems as though he's a little bulkier too. If you look at his forearms, if you want to call it that, they are massive. His front legs and front paws are really quite large, and he's got that distinctive scar under the right eye that makes him quite noticeable. So he's looking good, and his mane is starting to fill out quite nicely. He's got a bit of darkness coming in around the chest area, so he's becoming a lot more handsome than he was a few months ago when he had a couple of scratches and scars and looked a little bit on the tatty side. But like I say, you can see that these two are not waking up. Tinyo popped his nose, and Tinyo had his head up for all of about 1 second and then put his head back down again. There's another vehicle that came in just to come and see them, but with, like I say, the sleepiness of these two, I think there's not going to be much activity at all this morning. I think we're going to see this where they kind of pop their heads up and then back to sleep again. It's really quite strange, though. I would have thought in weather that we've got now that they might have spent a lot more time just waking up and actually looking around. It's not like it's very hot to make them sleep, but obviously it's been a long night that they're as sleepy as they are right now. At least it's a nice place to be. Like I said, there's lots happening at Chitwa Dam. There's always birds calling and Egyptian geese making noise. You hear the hippos grunting and snorting in the background every now and then. Randomness, the reason they were named the Birmingham boys is because they come from an area called Back to our male lions because, well, as you can see, one of them is awake. Tinyo was up for all of about 2 seconds and then flopped back down again. But Mfumo seems to be quite awake. He's watching, looking around, just checking down towards the lodge. So I don't know if there's maybe something that's caught his attention, but he's definitely far more awake than when we were here earlier. He keeps kind of putting his nose up to the breeze as well. There's a bit of a wind blowing. You can see his mane is just sort of fluffing in the breeze a bit. It's not a strong wind just yet, but I think he's picking up some sort of a scent. It is coming from the southeast, which means that is where the Sticks and one of his coalition members is, and maybe he's picking up their scent. I'm not 100% sure. It's a bit far, I would imagine, for that scent to drift all this way, but you never know. Maybe he has picked up some sort of sign, but he keeps looking around and keeps scenting the breeze, or sniffing the breeze, like I say, and just kind of taking everything in. So we decided we'd come back and just see what they get up to. Maybe he decides to move, but he's also sitting in the most regal male lion way you could ask for. He's kind of got his head up, watching what's going on. 2 front paws are kind of straight out in front of him, very sphinx-like, isn't it? And kind of quite beautiful, actually. He's looking seriously good. Mfumo is looking a lot better than Tinyo. Tinyo's looking quite scarred and battled and kind of as though he's had a rough few days, whereas Mfumo looks as good as I've seen him look in a long time. He really worried about him this time. Was it last year? Well, the year before. No, it was last year when he had the big hole in his face and was having a few issues with that, and didn't really look very nice at all. And you can see that's all healed up quite well. And I actually think his scars add to his appearance. Mfumo's got these kind of big scars under the right eye, and you can see where he kind of healed up on his face, and there's that big cut that goes from the right eye downwards, which is one of the sort of eye-deing features of Mfumo, and the easiest way is to tell who he is. But slowly, I think, starting to fall asleep again, although there you go, see, he just smells the wind every now and then, just to pick up what's going on. Pokemon, you're asking what happened to the 5th Birmingham. So the 5th Birmingham, unfortunately, he died last year. I think it was last year May. Was it last year? Yes, last year May. And he died. And he, as far as we understand, in a hunt with buffalo, it looks like he unfortunately got a buffalo horn that went into his chest and punctured his lung, and he unfortunately then died from that. That's what the autopsy revealed. And so he died up on Buffelshoek side. And so unfortunately for him, it wasn't a great way to go. It's never nice when you have a situation where an animal suffers a bit. He was in bad shape for a few days, unfortunately, before he was able to come right. Now I'm going to just probably move forward a little bit. There's a vehicle in front of us for a while, and so I want to move forward so we get that sort of view of Mfumo looking straight down the hill and down towards us, because he looks as regal could be, if you ask me. There we go. How's that? Yeah. Is that good? If he faces us, it's going to be good, I think. You can see there's a few clouds, but the sun is slowly but surely coming out. Maybe that's why Mfumo has also popped his head up, is maybe the little bit of sunshine that's kind of been hitting him on the face, which just allowed him to kind of wake up and sort of think about where he's going to put his head and where he's going to sleep. His shade is ultimately diminishing by the second. You can see his little tail is sticking out in a bit of the sunshine, and the top of his head as well. And so he's, I think, going to have to seek. Oh, and down we go again. No. I was hoping he was going to stay head up and move around and maybe get up and move towards Tinyo, but it seems as though he's just flopping down onto the ground again and is going to go back to sleep and back to the usual position. But at least we got him up and sort of looking around for a little bit. It wasn't very long, but it's better than them just sleeping and taking it very easy. You've got to see how good he's looking these days. I was also hoping that we would find some sort of sign of Hosanna, but no sign at all, so I wonder where he's gone. Roshni, you're asking, will the Birmingham boys try and expand their territory? I think they already are. I think they're moving into areas and spending more time in places that is quite far from where we've seen them. I haven't heard of the Birminghams up on Buffelshoek for a number of weeks now. Well, since I've been back from leave, I don't think the Birminghams have been up there. They've been in Torchwood a little bit, but otherwise not up into Buffelshoek. They seem to have concentrated a lot more down to the south. I think there's this Kambula pride that's on Mala Mala that they are focusing on and starting to try and get in there. I think there's a few females that are coming into Eastrus, and maybe it's dragging them a bit further south onto Mala Mala. They've also been going into Londolozi and a little bit even into Ottawa, which is a property that sits west of Elephant Plains and Simambili and is part of the Singita traversing area. And so they are definitely moving more and more. Whether or not they're going to carry on and keep going and head off into a different area altogether, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they will. It seems to be this pattern that happens in this area. I don't know why it is, but we seem to keep having the same situation, which is first we had the Mapokos that were up in here, and then unfortunately one of them was killed and one then moved down back to the west, and then we had the Majingalans that were here and spent a lot of time, and they then moved down to the west. Then the Matimbas came through and they then moved to Londolozi, and of course then we pushed back and are now nomadic to some degree, and now the Birminghams, who seem to be following a similar trait and starting to move deeper into Londolozi and further southwest than we've seen them go for quite some time. So I think at the end of the day, yes, they might expand their territory. A lion's going to expand until he meets resistance, and at the end of the day, the aging Majingalans and are only getting older. The Birminghams are still young if you consider a sort of male lion, and so I think eventually they're going to unfortunately just outlive the Majingalans, and that means that they might push that way. And there's no other real big coalitions that are forging into this area at the moment. We've seen no pressure from the north of male lions coming from that side. We've seen very little male lion pressure from the east coming in from Kruger, and the only male lions that theoretically could be a force to be reckoned with and something that could really sort of disturb the Birminghams is that coalition of 5 right down in the south of the Sabi Sands and into the Kruger Park. But I think they're already dominant individuals that have set up their territory, and the chances of them pushing all the way up to here is very, very slim. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting. I think the Birminghams at this stage have almost a free reign over the Sabi Sands in that they can move quite a long way without too much difficulty. I mean, at the end of the day, the only other males out here are all youngsters. The Avaka males, the Salala males, they are in no way as experienced, and there's no way that they are as big as the Birminghams. So it's going to be interesting. I think they might start kind of forging, and particularly if the Salala pride and the Mangaean pride and all these various other prides that are in the central and western Sabi Sands, females start coming into Eastrus, you never know. I mean, a male lion can move a long way. It just takes these guys to start moving and checking and finding these lionesses, and soon we'll have a situation where they're expanding their territory massively and are going out. The thing is, what's been interesting is following all of these male lion coalitions over the years, and particularly in this area, is that as they expand out, they tend to almost forget about the area that they've left, and with the Majingalans they just moved out, and the Matimbas came in, and it was almost like it wasn't worth coming back this way and pushing the Matimbas out. They found so much space to the southwest that they just used that rather than coming back this way. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting call as to where these Birminghams go and what pressure comes. I think if we start to see coalitions coming from the south or maybe the east, that might keep the Birminghams up here in the north, but if we start to see a big coalition coming from the north, that might push them southwards and west into the Sabi Sands. Randomness. Lions do sleep like this out in the open fairly regularly. I mean, today is a bit of a different story to yesterday. Yesterday was much hotter. The sun was blazing at this time, and so it would have been uncomfortable for a male lion to be out in the open like this, and would have been really difficult. So he would have been finding some shade. But yes, lions do like open clearings. Often you will find lions in the Sabi Sands lying in places like this. In fact, Chitwa Open, I've seen many, many, many lions on this open area. They like lying here. It's got a big field of view that they can see. There's water close by, and so it is common. It's not uncommon to see lions like this. They're not like leopards that prefer denser, thicker areas, although they will cross through those places and they will sometimes hunt in them. Most of the time lions like to walk in these open clearings and see what's going on and try and kind of utilize that to their advantage. So it's not uncommon at all, and I would imagine by this afternoon these two males might, I mean, they still will be here, but they might have moved a little bit just to follow a bit of shade, particularly if the sun does come out, although it seems to just be getting cloudier and cloudier. So it seems as though we're getting in a situation where we're going to probably have a bit of a cold front. So you can see lots of clouds rolling in and over the sunshine and blocking the sun out. So I think it's going to be a situation where these guys won't have to worry too much about shade this afternoon. Right, well, I think probably we're going to carry on now that Mfumo has gone back to sleep, and so while we go and try and see what else we can find, let's go back to Taylor McCurdy and see what she's been up to and whether or not she's had any luck this morning.